On Tuesday, the International Solidarity and Human Rights Mission travels from Argentina to Peru in order to observe and register human rights violation complaints in the country amid ongoing repression at hands of police and military forces. Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro met with the Prime Minister of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, Raúl González, in Caracas. And in the government of Türkiye continues the search and rescue operations after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit the country and on Monday and declares a 3-month state of emergency as the death toll keeps rising. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Tuesday, Peru hits the 2-month mark since the impeachment of former President Pedro Castillo, which has led to massive protests and more than 60 deaths due to police repression as the political crisis worsens. When on December 7th, former President Pedro Castillo was ousted and Dina Boluarte took office as head of state, she said she would remain in office until 2026, something that helped ignite the streets in various parts of the country. The massive marches against the government in various parts of the country do not seem to have been enough for the executive and the legislative to agree to approve an early election, announce resignations, show any self-criticism, or make an effort to dialogue with the demonstrators to calm the situation. Rather, the government has tightly clung to its position, disregarding the people's request as the social and political crisis becomes even deeper. On Tuesday, the International Solidarity and Human Rights Mission travels from Argentina to Peru in order to observe and register human rights violations complaints in the country amid ongoing repression at hands of police and military forces. The International Human Rights Mission announced its departure in the context of the ongoing repression of social protests in Peru that began after the ousting of former President Pedro Castillo on December 7th and has so far killed dozens of civilians. The delegation is composed of Argentinian social leader Juan Grabois, national deputies, and several social movement leaders and activists with experience in international affairs. The mission, which intends to show Latin American support to the struggle of the Peruvian people, has been summoned by different Peruvian human rights, social and farmer organizations to record on site the different acts of harassment demonstrators are facing. After the press conference that launched the international mission, Gonzalo Armoa, one of the delegation members, talked to teleSUR about the importance of this mission in the context of the brutal repression unleashed in the Andean country.
The purpose of this mission is to make visible the violation of human rights that the Peruvian state is carrying out against these demonstrations and to submit a report to different human rights organizations and international bodies in order to at least try to mitigate the repression that is being unleashed. This mission is made up of different social organizations, human rights organizations and trade unions from Argentina who have shown their solidarity and have responded in this way to the call of different Peruvian movements, human rights organizations and Peruvian lawyers who ask us to travel to the territory. That is why this mission is leaving today, Tuesday, February 7th, for Peru. The idea is to arrive in Lima and then be able to travel to the different affected areas and be able to meet with relatives and victims of the repression. In this way, we are putting our grain of sand, a sample of this solidarity, of this brotherhood of the Latin American great homeland, as we have already done in 2019 in Bolivia after the COP, in 2021 in Colombia against the national strike, and in Ecuador in 2022 also against the mobilization and the subsequent repression of the Lasso government. This is the 4th edition and we hope to contribute to Latin American unity, but above all to show solidarity with the broader people of Peru.
A new mission of the International Monetary Fund is in Argentina to review the country's compliance with the goals to December 2022 of the program signed with the multilateral organization. Sources from the Ministry of Economy confirmed on Tuesday that the 4th review of the Extended Facilities Agreement targets will allow a new disbursement of $5.4 billion for Argentina by the organization. Secretary of Economic Programming Gabriel Rubinstein and the Ministry of Economy's Chief of Advisors Leonardo McCourt are the Argentinian officials who have been leading the meetings with the IMF representatives since last Sunday, while the delegation is expected to remain in the South American country until next Monday. The review is part of the agreement that both sides sealed at the end of March 2022 to refinance a loan of more than $45 billion granted in 2018 during the government of former President Mauricio Macri. In Uruguay, a teachers' union of the Central Board of Directors has denounced espionage against teachers and students. The incident occurred when President Luis Lacalle Pou, former security chief Alejandro Artesiano, agreed to track their phones. The National Federation of Junior High School Teachers issued a statement expressing their concern about what happened and demand that measures be taken in this regard. They claim that anti-democratic practices are carried out in Montevideo in order to persecute those who are considered as enemies. Alejandro Artesiano, former security chief of President Luis Lacalle Pou, has been detained since last September, accused of more than 20 crimes, including falsifying documents such as passports. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro met Tuesday with the Prime Minister of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, at the Miraflores Palace in Caracas. The bilateral meeting was part of the efforts to consolidate the integration of Latin America and the Caribbean as a way to achieve mutual development, the guarantee of life and the well-being of the member countries. The meeting served to promote the agenda for the implementation and development of the agreements through the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas, ALBA-TCP. Venezuela and Saint Vincent and the Grenadines maintain a solid strategic partnership in the areas of energy, trade, tourism, and security, as well as a common position in defense of a balanced and democratic regional integration on the principles of mutual respect and self-determination. Let us take a short break now, but first, remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. On Monday, international experts joined Chile's frantic fight against devastating drought-fueled forest fires that have killed 26 people, injured hundreds, and destroyed more than 1,100 homes in less than a week. Officials said the blazes in south-central Chile, some 280 of which were still burning, have consumed about 270,000 hectares of land, an area larger than the country of Luxembourg. The alarm was raised again over a new surge in temperatures starting on Tuesday. Interior Minister Carolina Toja told reporters that in 5 days of fires, an area was destroyed equivalent to what is usually burned in 2 years of fires. The minister also said that Chile was becoming one of the countries most vulnerable to fires due to climate change. Hundreds of volunteer firefighters work 12 to 18 hours a day fighting forest fires near central Chile's Santa Juana commune, one of the most affected areas.
Our work has to be as controlled and professional as possible, but I think the most dramatic thing is to be able to see the situation of the people who are running out of their homes, without their family, without their animals, and are totally destitute.
It has been painful. We received technical training to control emergencies, but there are many things that we are not prepared for, such as emotionally seeing people's desperation.
A Chilean government official confirmed on Tuesday that authorities detained 15 people accused of causing the deadly wildfires that have been affecting the nation for several months. Interior Ministry Undersecretary Manuel Monsalve said at a press conference that the blazes, fanned by severe heat and dry winds, have led over 20 deaths and more than 1,000 injuries, and those who started them face harsh consequences. Monsalve added that the Chilean law is especially strict regarding the crime of arson, stating that sentences range from 5 to 20 years in prison. The government of Türkiye advances in the search for victims after the 7.8 magnitude earthquake that hit the country. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan declared a 3-month state of emergency in 10 Turkish provinces affected by the earthquake. Erdogan said 70 countries had offered help in search and rescue operations, and that Türkiye planned to open hotels in the western resort of Antalya to temporarily house people who had been affected. Government sources have reported that the country's death toll has now risen to 5,400, while Syrian sources, on the other hand, are estimating their death figure around 1,800. In Turkey, low temperatures and already close to 200 aftershocks are hampering attempts to find more survivors among the unstable structures. According to the Turkish State Meteorological Service, temperatures will drop to -3 degrees Celsius and snow and rain are expected for most of the week. Since the quake which struck near the southern Turkish town of Gaziantep on Monday happened at night, people trapped were wearing pajamas and little warm clothing. Many of those rescued had no shoes on. This worries the authorities, who together with volunteers are working under extreme conditions in order to save as many lives as possible. Rescuers from the Algerian Civil Protection arrived in Aleppo, Syria to assist in search and rescue operations following a massive earthquake and aftershocks which killed more than 5,000 in Türkiye and Syria. One team comprised of 89 specialist urban rescue operatives was joined by another made up of 86 people. The two groups include specialists in search and rescue under rubble, trained canine search teams, a disaster medicine team, and other specialties. In this sense, Lieutenant Youssef Abdat, a media officer at the General Directorate of Civil Protection traveling with the teams, reaffirmed that all members of the team were ready to take on the task assigned to them by the Algerian authorities. On Tuesday, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, on a telephone conversation, expressed his condolences to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad regarding the victims of the earthquake that shook the country a day earlier. Both presidents, since al-Sisi came to power in 2014, on Monday, February 6, a 7.7 magnitude earthquake followed by the tens of aftershocks, and another similar magnitude earthquake 9 hours later, which shook several provinces in southeastern Turkey and northwestern Syria. The tremors were also felt in Lebanon, Israel, and other Middle Eastern countries. According to the latest data, the earthquake caused at least 3,549 deaths and 2,168 people injured in Turkey, plus over 800 fatalities and more than 1,400 injured in Syria. We have more news coming up for a final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. Russian Foreign Affairs Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived Tuesday in Mali from Iraq as part of a tour that also includes Mauritania and Sudan. In his meetings with Malian top officials, Lavrov will discuss prospective Russian exports of grain, fertilizers, and oil products, the expansion of bilateral economic, trade, and investment cooperation, as well as strengthening the interaction in promising fields like mineral resources, exploitation, geological prospecting, energy, infrastructure, and agriculture. Other issues to be discussed include cooperation between the armed forces and other law enforcement agencies of the two countries, including the training of Malian military personnel in schools of Russia's Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Interior. Current international and regional issues will also be discussed, with emphasis on the repercussions of the conflict in Ukraine and the fight against terrorism in the Sahel and West Africa. China said on Tuesday that it is determined to defend its rights and interests in the face of Washington's refusal to return the wreckage of a scientific balloon shot down after it had entered U.S. airspace driven by winds. The foreign ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning argued that the balloon belongs to China and not to the United States, in response to Pentagon spokesman John Kirby's comments that Washington will retain the device. She insisted on the need to handle the matter in a calm, professional manner and without military implications, and reiterated that it was a force majeure event and that the device was civilian. The entry of the balloon into the U.S. sky created a new focus of bilateral tension because the White House shut it down on Saturday, considering that it was carrying out espionage activities, and also canceled the visit to China of the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Finland's Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto reaffirmed on Tuesday that his country's goal is to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization alongside Sweden. Haavisto's comments came despite growing concerns that Finland could join NATO alone if Türkiye maintains its veto on Swedish membership. Ankara has indicated on several occasions that it does not oppose Finland's membership but suspended negotiations with Sweden for allowing pro-Kurdish demonstrations and the burning of a copy of the Quran on Swedish territory. French trade unions launched a third wave of nationwide strikes on Tuesday against President Emmanuel Macron's plans to make the people work longer before retirement. As the bill began its passage through Parliament, unions urged the public to again take to the streets in large numbers, with workers across multiple sectors walking out. The new bill states that people must work 2 years longer, meaning until the age of 64, for most in order to keep the budget of the pension system. Meanwhile, Labour Minister Olivier Dussopt dismissed opposition accusations that the government was in denial over the scale of street protests across the country and said change was needed. The Kenyan Farmers League, KPL, has taken to court an order from the Kenyan President's cabinet authorizing the importation and open field cultivation of genetically modified food and seeds, fearing serious consequences from the adoption of GMOs. The High Court of Kenya suspended the lifting of the 10-year ban on GMOs until this coming Monday, when the first hearing of a disaster trial in Kenya and all of Africa is scheduled to take place.
The Migori town market was demolished a year ago. They promised to rebuild it, but trade still takes place on the ground. For example, this natural and cultural remedy produced by a peasant woman for stomach illness.
They are exposed to sand and dust. It is inhumane.
In addition, lessors still pay a fixed amount per day regardless of what they sell.
They make promises during the campaign and then they forget about everything.
These Kenyan Peasants League agents expose the reality of the Migori market as an example of governance that neither supports nor protects them as it could and it should.
Sharing is living. The way KPL farmers share seeds is a way of living. It is a way of expressing love to itself.
This heaven of peace and delightful diversity that is Dig Olera's home demonstrates that agroecological techniques not only provide food and medicine for humans and nature, but also create real opportunities for farmers to improve their lives and their autonomy. Dig is now building a new house.
This emphasis they are putting on OGMs should be discarded and placed on organic agriculture.
On the platforms that bridge the gap between farmers and consumers, the so-called Kienyeji foods are increasingly valued. Dig has its seeds, whose intellectual owner is love and faith taken out of his hands. In Nyamagagana, Kuria, KPL farmers showed their appreciation for the black maize seeds given to them by Dig before the last planting.
We sowed the seeds he gave us. Now each member of the group will take a concorb to be used as seed.
In Kuria, this variety of black corn is called mohaga.
It is good for people who have problems with sugar. It is medicinal. We are also preparing national compost. We will try to produce some nice bags, lots of them.
They intend to collectively recover a Kienyeji variety that they were losing and guarantee seed sovereignty.
We flatly reject the OGM's business because it causes illnesses to people.
The farmers of Nyamagagana, this village in Kuria, also do not understand that in order to mitigate the food dependence of Africa, it is necessary to create a new dependence on patented seeds that are also accompanied by chemicals for large monocultures that destroy biodiversity, and where small-scale farmers who can take care of their gardens without chemicals by getting up early despite being the majority of the population will see their place and their dignity eliminated.
Desde Migori, Oscar Pelde para teleSUR.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.